We now return to Let's Play Rogue State. So, when we left off, I was ready to end the turn, however, I still have one action this turn where I can do something, and since the early game is very important, I believe I'm going to, and I think I'll start by setting big policies. I think I'm going to start double-clicking to get him to finish his walk cycle, so he doesn't do that. Okay, so we've got big things to set up. Working visas for the foreign workers program could be important, turning the capitalists my way. But what I think I'm going to start with is turning on gambling, and this will increase crime, but it will also increase GDP. Now, it'll piss off the fundamentalists, it will increase my capitalist approval, and we're going to have to basically just start balancing all of this stuff. So, alcohol tolerance is currently a thing. I'm going to turn that down to alcohol consumption ban. It's illegal for any person to consume alcohol in public. This kind of pisses off the liberals a bit, but we can do more for them. Now, prohibition is excessive, and I don't believe this is a good idea, so we'll just keep it moderate. Well, I say moderate, this is hardly moderate, but at least you can consume it in your own home. That's a good thing. We also want to have disaster relief. There will be things that happen, and we want the money to be able to cover it. It, I believe, only comes from the relief fund. So we'll set this up to pragmatic for now, I guess. Okay. We have, well, let's just keep going left to right. Homeless shelters. We have no social support, or at least we're losing social support from these two things, and it's rising crime. I'm going to bump this up at least initially just to homeless relocation. For now, eventually we can pump money into it. You'll see that it does cost money every time I change some of these policies. Same with this one, no disability support, we now want limited disability grants. Basically, we just want to try and get rid of any of these negatives, especially since support right now is yellow. We have limited social welfare programs and measures. Basically, from what I have seen, these are what affect your major issues. So, in my last playthrough, or my first playthrough, they were both the same thing, I had a pretty, well, I had a yellow GDP and a yellow labor rights, and what that gave me as the major crisis for that playthrough was worldwide economic collapse. I believe if you have other issues like with health, for example, you'll get the plague, and that might be tied to these. It might also just be completely random. I'm not really sure. Right, so we've done the free trade zone. That's the thing. Prosecution budget. Right now, there's a legal backlog. It's very hard to get any justice done. We probably want to lower... You know what? Corruption is actually green at the moment. I think we're okay with that. This corruption, anti-corruption from the free trade zone, is counteracting the increased corruption from the police budget. We now have capable law enforcement, but corruption remains problematic. If I bump that up, we increase approval of the patriots, and I believe, yeah, we have to go into police state in order to have corruption completely gone. But I think that this is probably enough to counteract that. We'll know when this goes down, of course. It says we have honest institutions right now, and that improves my UN relations, so that's a good thing to have. Mass transit is a good thing, at least for increasing approval with the liberals. It does, however, cost a lot of money. I think the better thing to do would be to increase our schools so that we can have more functional schooling. We are severely hampering how much money I will be getting. I think I might want to raise taxes. I'll have to do that next turn, though. So now we see that fundamentalists and the capitalists are neutral, which is not good because we are very low in our approval. We are going to have to maybe do something else. Let's see, that GDP is being counteracted with that. Crime has 2 greens to 1 red, so that'll probably stay green for a while. That's something we definitely want, especially as the country is developing. So what can I do to improve relations with the liberals? Increasing this, of course, but then we have to worry about capitalists. I think, since I can afford a little bit there, will hurt jobs just a little bit by increasing to an average minimum wage, but now everyone's pretty much neutral. Once I get some more money coming in from my my taxes that I'm going to change out next time around, I think we'll be fine. I could also turn down disaster funding to nothing for one turn just to make a little bit of money. Doesn't seem to affect anyone, but it will affect the country. I'm going to actually change this to limited consideration for now. We definitely want a little bit of money coming in. I would like to get some growth, but we're going to have to wait for probably the first event to happen before we get some approval, extra approval, that I can then adjust these some more. Maybe even turn schools down, but no, because we need that for the liberals to be neutral. Okay, well, there we go, and that was the last action of the first turn, which I probably wasn't supposed to take, but here we go. Educators are proposing that English be taught alongside our native language in elementary school. If we allow it, it increases approval with the United States, who are neutral with me, and if I refuse, it increases with my patriots. It does not say it will act negatively with the United States, so since I'm going to be, in fact, a rogue state, I don't believe I want the United States on my side. I don't want to antagonize them right away. I definitely want to make sure that we're good to go before I start pissing off the U.S., but I think right now we need to focus domestically, and so we will refuse and help out with the Patriots. Now, there might be hidden numbers behind the scenes, you know, metagaming here, that this probably does have a negative impact on the United States and possibly the UN, but it does not have an immediate outcome, so we'll refuse that. Okay, so we see that that did increase the approval by 3% from the last time. Wow, capitalists absolutely hate me now. Down 11% from turn 1, probably because English is the language of business, and I can imagine they do not like that at all. So yeah, clicking on these, we can actually see what their problem is. If you wish to improve the loyalty of Basenji's capitalists, you may wish to consider commissioning a Western-style hotel. That's also important if we ever want the U.S. president to come our way, or possibly the Russian one. If you wish to improve loyalty with the liberals, we need a national wildlife preserve. Capitalists, we need to improve loyalty with the... oh, we were just there. It was the fundamentalists, religious schools, national stadium for the Patriots. Okay. Well, here it is, my first turn, that I can actually do something fully. Let's have a look at Parliament. So these guys didn't really change much at all, but let's have a look at this, since I can. So yes, banked loyalty points will allow me basically to buy newspaper editorials in the neighboring countries, and that will increase relations with them, so that's good. We can get other things here for the 50s, which do good things for patriots, for the capitalists, the fundamentalists, and the liberals, and then finally, we can have volunteers increase our military by getting a tank brigade. Now, the tank does have some upkeep costs, but eventually I would like to replace the infantry that we have with tanks. And in fact, we can go into the situation room at the moment and see what the military situation is. If we look at the strategic overview here, just double-click to get and walk through. Everyone is pretty much neutral, but we do have infantry on the borders. Now, having infantry on the borders, I'm not sure if that does impact the relations with these guys. I seem to have noticed that when I had tanks and I started moving them onto the border, the turn that I moved them onto the border did have a little bit of a negative impact. They didn't like that. But it's important as well because it affects who comes into the country. If we just move everyone into the inside of the country and protect ourselves internally, we run the risk of allowing subversives and other undesirables into our territory. We can also see what everyone has. Tajikistan has oil, which is, well, that could be useful. I mean, if we're trading that, if we're importing it, problem is it might just be very expensive. If we're importing it, though, that means we get some money per turn, so it might be worth it. Of course, not necessarily, because oil is really just oil. So we can get the 2 per turn, but it might cost us like 10 to import, so that's not very good. We have electronics, media, plastics. We have goats and whatever this is, or we should look at this because I need to know now what I can get. I don't have textiles around here, which means I will not be able to get the cashmere bonuses, unless that's actually what we're going to have. I would imagine each of these resources shows up. However, that's not entirely true. My last playthrough, 2 other countries had the metal here, and so that meant I could not sell the metal to them, which was kind of annoying. But it also meant that things like whatever this is were missing. So we could do smartphone manufacturing in the future. That'll improve capitalist approval, and then we will have no expense ongoing for reverse engineering, which might be nice. We also had religious broadcasts, which will help me out with the fundamentalists. Fast food production, that'll help with capitalists, not so much the fundamentalists, and traditional cuisine, which helps with fundamentalists and approval with the patriots. So that's something to look at. Media products would also be good just because one gives you patriot and liberal. So we'll have to consider that. We might actually be, because if I was importing all 4, and I don't see how I could possibly make the money to import all 4 of those, we would basically have this one, this one, this one, this one, and then oil, should I decide to go for that. So here we can get more units through the procurement officer. If I decide to go and build a nuke, we have the console for that. Well, let's look at the clandestine operations we can have. We can build nuclear weapons, we can build a space program, a giant hydroelectric dam, a great firewall, we can eventually get an assassin, and a time machine. But we need clandestine facilities, and that's something we need to develop eventually. Let's talk to General Nadad.
Do you have any orders, Excellency?
Let's find out how the military feels about me.
The armed forces are satisfied with your leadership. They know you are doing your best.
Okay. And we have no intelligence, so going through this strategic assessment of all these guys is kind of pointless. Intelligence reports, we're going to have an intelligence facility and service to get that. But we can kind of see who we've got right now. But it's going to be important for how we talk to others to know kind of what they're into. Of course, we can always find that out through the encyclopedia. That's not always the best case. Let's look at the newspaper. 65% of Basenjis read English. Shouldn't we do more to protect our own language? Yeah, okay. Preparing for a heat wave. Public assured income tax increases are temporary. That we will spend the money wisely. Now we can look at how much approval we have in our various factions, as well as how much of the society they make up. So it's kind of important to pay attention to this, although if we're doing well enough, it doesn't really make a difference. But if we have a large section of patriots, for example, we want to make policies that increase their approval more than anyone else. Of course, events happen, and the faction that people in your society identify as can shift, so we're going to go for a balanced approach, I think, and we may as well get started with buying some things in the infrastructure. We've got the money, so it may as well. We have to do this before we can get anything really productive, but what we definitely need is the state industries, because this is what's going to give me access to these resources. So let's start by restoring financial services, increasing my capitalist support as well as tax revenue. It'll take 2 turns for that to unlock, I guess. And then rebuild the I cannot talk tonight. Telecommunications infrastructure, also increasing tax revenue. And that will help just a bit. So we're going to have to wait on this, I believe. Yeah. Okay. So that's done. Let's bring Tariq back in here. Okay. Let's ask him about the confidence of the parliament.
Do I still have the confidence of our parliament?
Our generals are concerned that we are vulnerable to attack. You should consider purchasing more military units to ensure the safety of our country.
Okay. What about the international reputation?
International reputation.
Relations with some of our neighbors are poor. You should reach out to them and try to find common ground.
Any news from the polling agencies? How is the mood of our people?
Excellency, our fundamentalists and liberals are unhappy about the lack of social programs for those less fortunate. I highly suggest seeking policies that will devote new resources to those in need.
Okay. Well, we can have him leave, or we can have him around and just keep asking him,
You can leave now.
but
As you wish, Excellency.
there's really no reason to do that. So, since I'm sitting here, I'll pick up the phone and we'll start talking to some people. Actually, before I do that, let's go ahead and read about... Tajikistan seems to be our immediate ally, and they're the ones with oil. Let's come read the encyclopedia. And we'll talk to Tajikistan. Tajikistan is an autocratic republic that has brutally suppressed political parties and religious freedom and maintained rule with an iron fist. The country's thousands of political and religious prisoners are subject to appalling conditions and horrific torture. The country is besieged by militant religious groups focused on the overthrow of the government in power. Tajikistan is consistently ranked as one of the most corrupt countries in the world, comparable to Afghanistan and Uzbekistan. Laws intended to fight corruption are in place but lack enforcement, and what little has been accomplished can be linked to power struggles between rival oligarchic groups. The judiciary, although theoretically independent, is highly dependent on the central executive, with judges appointed by the president and rubber-stamped by the Legislative Assembly. Partial state ownership and influence are also common as government officials use their position to promote their own business interests. This creates an environment rife with conflict of interests, and access to free media is extremely limited. Not so good. So, we do not want to bring up topics of human rights and that sorts of thing with them. While we're at it, let's look at some of our other people here. Farouk, for example. Farouk is your older brother by 3 years. A senior member of the Basenji Communist Alliance, he directed 2 attempted coups against King Salman in the decade leading up to the revolution. He was imprisoned in 2006, but escaped in late 2008. At the beginning of the revolution, he was instrumental in the coordination of demonstrations, marches, occupations of plazas, riots, nonviolent civil resistance, acts of civil disobedience, and strikes. He grew the revolutionary movement to hundreds of thousands in size from a range of socio-economic and religious backgrounds demanding the overthrow of King Salman. Most noteworthy, he alone was able to broker consensus between Karifi, liberal, anti-capitalist, nationalist, and feminist interest groups. When Salman ordered the army to open fire on the revolutionary movement, his leadership is cited as a critical factor to keeping casualties low. Many were surprised that the Revolutionary Council chose you over him to lead the transitional government, and he won't let you forget it. Keeping him out of your cabinet would severely destabilize your public support, so for now, you're stuck with each other. Yeah, he's a bit jealous and angry, reasonably so, I would say, and he's just going to be a thorn in my side. General Adad. General Nader Adad holds the title of Chief Military Advisor of the Transitional Government. In practice, he is the liaison between the glorious leader and the command structure of the Basenji Army, Navy, and Air Force. Born August 26, 1961, he served as general of the Basenji Army at the time of the revolution. There is a cult of personality surrounding General Adad that may even rival yours or Farouk's. At the height of the revolution, when King Salman ordered the army to open fire upon a non-violent Tabor market protest, the general is said to have deliberately ignored those orders and pulled the army back as a sign of support for the rebels. The failure of the army to quell those protests is often cited as a first sign of the monarchy's loss of control, and post factum, he is largely regarded as a hero for his deliberate inaction. The reality, however, is less noble. General Adad is a practical problem solver and an expert in self-preservation. He has risen through the ranks because of shrewd calculation rather than bravery or patriotic zeal. Although he has done much to ensure that the military remains more or less loyal to you, he still harbors private skepticism of your ability to retain power for much longer. Nader will faithfully discharge your orders for a time, but he suspects that one day he will abandon his place by your side, and you will never see or hear from him, his wives, or his 3 sons ever again. Have to keep an eye on him. Okay, so that's done for now. Let's go back and talk to Tajikistan or Tarikistan. What is your name? Tajikistan.
Thank you for taking my call.
Let's discuss the issues. It's our responsibility to govern the strictest traditions of the old ways. No, we glorify the old ways, but we must not fall victim to institutionalizing it in the state. We must work together to counter extremism, both within and outside our borders, and we are very worried about Western imperialism. So, we don't really know where this guy's positions are on various issues, and so by clicking some of these, I risk offending him and ruining relations. However, if I click on something that he likes to hear, then that will improve it. Now, I would imagine saying countering extremism both within and outside our borders is something that we could both agree upon. However, Well, actually, yes. I mean, the encyclopedia says that he's fighting that stuff, right? So hopefully this will be a good result.
We must work together to counter extremism both within and outside our borders.
We share your deep concern and hope to work together to root out these violent individuals and bring them to justice.
Good, that was a good thing. We may glorify the old ways, we must not fall victim to the trap of institutionalizing it into the state. I don't know if he'll agree with glorifying them, but he'll definitely not want this as part of the state, I would imagine.
While we may glorify the old ways, we must not fall victim to the trap of institutionalizing it into the state.
Those who say religion has nothing to do with politics do not know what religion is.
I'm not sure if that was a good result or a bad result. Let's not talk about trade. Let's go ahead and end the call. Western imperialism... I doubt well, no, actually, since it's an autocracy and therefore a dictatorship, they probably have strong ties to the U.S. Let's not mention that just yet.
Apologies, but I must go. Let us speak again later.
Goodbye.
So let's look at the phone call, and we're kind of neutral still. So perhaps I didn't accomplish anything there. Let's look at some of the others, because that's always fun, right? Just sitting here and listening to me read. I really should have done this all at once because, well, it doesn't matter, I guess, because every phone call is a quarter turn. Let's finish this off with Babelistan. Babelistan is the oldest country in the region, located at the crossroads between many cultures and faiths. The Desert Kingdom emerged out of the post-World War I division of the Middle East by Britain and France. Although the country enjoys many natural wonders and has a well-developed tourism section in place to share them, it has very few natural resources, and its tourism economy has been undermined by instability within the region. As a result, the country is now heavily dependent on foreign aid. Okay, so don't mention anything bad about the UN or the United States. The current democratic government's pragmatic, non-confrontational line in foreign relations is often at odds with the more militant approach of its neighbors. Babelistan is considered one of the safest countries in the region, with few incidents of conflict over the past century. This reputation may be challenged in the incoming months as increasingly polarized politics in the region threaten to force Babelistan's hand in international affairs. Okay, so saying to them that we need to counter terrorism might offend them because they think they're doing all right, they're safe. And Bothia achieved independence from Great Britain in 1978. It now exists as a stable representative democracy. During the Cold War, Bothia was considered one of the poorest Gulf states. 2 decades of social and industrial reforms, combined with the discovery of rich oil fields, have advanced Bothia to one of the enviably wealthy countries in the region. Bothia is largely progressive, and women are well represented in the state legislature. Population is small and concentrated in urban areas. The old ways are the dominant faith practiced in Bothia, but there remain sizable Christian and Muslim communities. Oil revenues fund an all-embracing welfare state, with many services being free or heavily subsidized. Bothia is active on the regional and world stage, having mediated in disputes in the Middle East and Africa. Is also involved in pursuing a regional peace deal. Interesting, okay. We'll leave the other ones for a little bit later. So let's go see what we can do with them. Okay, let's talk to Bothia. These guys are a progressive country.
Thank you for taking my call.
Let's discuss the issues. It is our responsibility to govern in the strictest traditions of the old ways and to protect the people from heretical philosophies. Well, they do like the old ways, but spiritual leadership is important, but we must not accept literal interpretations of the old ways that do not make sense in this day and age. We would like to deepen long-standing cooperation that exists between our two nations.
We would like to deepen the long-standing cooperation that exists between our two nations.
We do not currently see many opportunities for partnership at this juncture, but we hope to continue this conversation in the future.
Okay, fair enough. We believe the United Nations is essential to preventing conflicts in our region.
We believe the United Nations is essential to preventing conflicts in our region.
The United Nations has failed to prevent regional conflicts to date. Tell me, what do you foresee changing in the future?
Okay, well that was a bad result there. I tried to pander to him, and
let us speak again later.
It didn't work. It really should have been Babelistan where I said that, because they are the ones for whom that sort of thing seems to have effect. Okay, building infrastructure, we're still waiting on that, right? Yeah, I can't do that. What else could I do? I could affect my treasury. Really, though, we need the approval ratings to go up. Let's look at my policies real quick. I have 1 turn left. I'll probably want to call Babelistan. Yeah. Let's go ahead and call them. Screw up relations with them as well. Didn't really change much with them. Let's see what we can do here.
Thank you for taking my call.
Let's go ahead and deepen the long-standing cooperation.
We would like to deepen the long-standing cooperation that exists between our two nations.
We enjoy our privileged relationship and look forward to accomplishing great things together.
Yeah, definitely don't want to say we're worried about Western imperialism because they like the Westerners. So let's end the call,
But I must go.
and we'll call
Let
it
us
good
speak
there.
again later.
Goodbye.
So that was one positive thing. Here we go. Excellency, our accountants just reviewed the data in our national treasury and found a rounding error that works out in our favor. We have 200 million real, more than we previously believed. Excellent news, or have the accountants executed? We still, either way, get a huge windfall for our treasury. That's pretty damn good. I now have a massive amount of money that I can do things with. Unfortunately, because we don't have the infrastructure through our reconstruction just yet, I can't do a hell of a lot with it. Citizens are now growing more patriotic, and Minister Abdulaziz requests to increase treasury growth rate to 25 a turn within the next 5 turns. Damn, that is too soon for it to be that high. So, I guess one thing I can do there is just increase taxes. What are my other policies at the moment? We could jump down on that, and probably not. I mean, we really don't want to take these. They're pretty much down as far as they can go. We definitely don't want to mess with that much more. What would this do? This would just... No, that's not a good thing either. How much would that increase if I bumped that up? Not a lot. Eventually we want to get schools up to as high as possible because obviously it has good effects, but right now we're pretty much suffering from things that we can't really do many things about. So that kind of sucks. Well, I'm going to have to figure out how to raise that, because in order to raise it through taxes, it would just be outrageous. I mean, if I bump this up to 20... Well, actually, bumping it up to 21... But see, at that point, as soon as you go over 20, you're now going from... from jobs... Oh, actually, 21 looks like... just the cutoff. As soon as you start going above that, you start taking out of GDP. So for 1 turn, we might want to bump it up this high, and then we can actually lower this the next turn. Not too bad. It will affect approval tremendously, though, as well as hurt jobs, but it's only for a turn. If we look at the commodities here, this is kind of what I wanted to check out earlier. The media stuff is going down. See, sheep is going down. What's going up right now? Electronics? Metal, not so much. Oil is still very high, but looks like it's plateauing a bit. And whatever this is, the ore seems to be going up. I don't think that's ore. I don't know what that is. Spices! Spices, it says right there. Spices are going up. So we'll have to definitely wait and see what I'm getting. So here's the thing. I don't know that I've looked at this yet. This is the bank where I can sort of graft some money out of the... And I might want to do that because I've got a hell of a lot of it. I can graft some money out of the treasury and put it in my bank account. And at the end of the game, it does affect my final score. So you get more XP to spend on things. And speaking of which... I put my tax revenue in by closing that. Okay. Speaking of which, we have unlockables, which I might be able to unlock this time around because I've earned a little bit of experience from playing previously. So by unlocking the comedian, I can start telling jokes to other leaders. The charmer, I can flatter members of the opposite sex. We have 1. Polyglot allows me to talk to people of Chichenistan. we don't have Chickanistan this time around. I did in the last game, and it's very difficult because they speak chicken. Petroleum Theocracy. Next time I want to start a game, I can start with a significant fundamentalist bonus thanks to the oil economy. Capitalist Playground. I would get a significant capitalist bonus because of a tourist economy. Unstable Elements. Poor relations with neighbors but nuclear weapons. And Hermit Kingdom. Total control over what the public sees but poor relations with neighbors. Becoming an isolationist state. Yep. Can't unlock any of that except the Petroleum Theocracy. I don't know. I think we're already going to be pretty well off with Babelistan. They seem to like us already, so I don't know that we need that, and I'm not really sure that the jokes actually help. It just is a dialogue option. So we'll hold off on that. Anyway, before I finish off with the rest of this, because I definitely think I want to do something. Like I said, we can't really do much with the infrastructure, but I've got some money. Maybe I can go buy some military. But I think for now, I'm going to end this one here, and we'll pick that up next time.